Coach Ivan. It's really good to have you in Dublin. So welcome. We spent a few days together, but it's fantastic to have you in the studio recording a podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. So we've done a podcast before. So we've done an episode and people can find it and we can link it for people. And we spoke a lot about the Suples training systems. And I think anybody who finds this video and watches this video, they will probably know who you are to a certain extent. They'll be familiar with the Suples training systems, with all the equipment. But today, what I really want to talk about is people within the Suples training system, is the coaches and people who take charge of those tools. And the first question I have for you is, what brought you to coaching? Because you had quite a rapid transition from being a top level athlete to then slotting into the coaching role. So how did that transition happen? How did you get into coaching?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Mostly what I felt like got me into coaching is that I was effective with athletes by giving my basic instructions. For example, I was first time I felt the coaching, the real coaching, like in giving instructions to athletes versus just to wrestle and just show some moves, is when I was invited at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, United States, to be just a technician. My friend Steve Frazier brought me, who was a national coach at that time, brought me from Bulgaria to Colorado Springs, and they had their national, I call it January camp. It was an annual camp that we're doing. And he put me there, and they asked me to show my top techniques that I've been scoring, been effective. And I've been showing just my stuff. I wasn't trained to show moves, especially in English. But I realized after the clinic, after that camp, guys been asking about me, and they were talking good things about me, positive things that I break things down and explain very well. And I saw myself effective, and that kind of like made me think about, oh, maybe I should consider coaching as like I should study this, and that's the first time I experienced like interest in coaching.
And what was it, almost like a surprise to yourself that you were that effective, or did you have that inkling already? Did you feel like you could do something?
I didn't know what to think. I knew the stuff that I was showing, I have a good understanding because I was coached by good coaches. So I was adding what I knew from my coaches. But when you hear positive things, and when athletes are asking about you, can you be on my corner? Can you watch how I wrestle? Can you show me this again? It tells you that you're effective, you know. And the other thing about coaching, I discovered later. I was just willing to help athletes without any payments, nothing. For me, it was not like I never thought about getting paid to show moves, and I've been showing sometimes techniques for like hours because athletes been asking me, they've been participating. We've been bouncing back and forth situations, technical situations. I mean, this is just clinical type of coaching, not really coaching what I do now. I've been working for hours, and I had some of my friends said, Ivan, what are you doing, man? You've been here for 5 hours, and like, you're not tired? I said, no, not tired, because these guys, we're bouncing back and forth ideas, and it's interesting for me, and they're motivating me because they want to learn, and we're going back and forth, and I get some ideas. For me, it's not really a work. And I like to help people. This is another skill that I probably discover later. I like to help people. I wanted to help them. And I feel like if you're not a giving person in that area, it's very hard to succeed. If you kind of stingy, like, I don't want to give him anything, I don't want to show him everything, right? I was just showing, but at the same time, we bounced back and forth ideas, and it was, it's not fun, but I mean, it's not like work. You understand? It's just something that I feel that the coach has to have to be able to help people.
I imagine this is incredibly important. I think you touched on that. that energy that comes back from the athletes, people you're trying to help, they have to be willing to receive?
Absolutely. It's always, I say that it's a partnership. Because if you're just always only showing and they don't respond, sooner or later the coach will say, these kids are not coachable, or they don't believe, they don't trust me, maybe I'm not for them, or they're not ready for me, But when you see athletes responding well, that's a good, fair partnership that it builds great relationship between coach and athlete. And if you look at, there's many training systems, many training methods, many different approaches what coaches are doing. But one thing is so important for all of the successful coaches, some way how they find a way how to convince their athletes to believe them, to trust them in the process of training. So that I think that's very important.
Yes, and I think we'll touch on that further, because I want to kind of hone in on that point as well. But as far as the influences on your coaching go, so what contributed to you? So you mentioned you had excellent coaches of your own. So at an early stage of your coaching career, I suppose you took a lot from your coaches who gave you a lot. I think in the several conversations that we had, you mentioned how good your coaches were when you were kind of coming up through the ranks in wrestling. But at different stages, so early, if we split them into kind of early stage of your coaching career, kind of mid stage, and then latter stage. So what are the top contributing factors that shaped you as a coach?
Well, if I have to start very at the beginning, how I decided to start coaching, my coaching career was, I started my coaching journey after I retired after 1996 Olympic Games. I started my coaching journey from the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, working with adults athletes, those guys who already wrestle at the world level. And if you have some experience, if you have some knowledge about the retired athletes, you see the majority of them are they're so ambitious to take the top jobs, right? To go right away with the senior level national team. I've watched this in my career when I was in Bulgaria, and I know some coaches that were coaching me when they were going after that job, and they get it, and then later they fail because of lack of experience. And you know what? When they fail, I don't see them coming back. That's the scary part. So I realized that if I really want to have successful coaching career, I have to start in the United States working with grassroots. I have to study the American system. And that was not just my opinion. I was talking a lot with Steve Frazier, who is the national coach, and he advised me to just be patient here, study the system. We're not like what you have in Bulgaria or in Russia or in other countries. And I realized that too. And he advised me not to get frustrated about, wrestling here, 3 styles and all of these. And at first I was frustrated. So this is how you guys even thinking to win, you have to focus on one style and all of it. So anyway, I had to study. So I accepted a job working with grassroots in Salt Lake City with kids that are at first were like 15 years old, 15, 16, and then we started with even younger athletes, younger kids like 8, 9, 10. And I started to study the coaching process from there. And then gradually I was climbing. The kids who I was coaching, I was 15, 16 years old, became juniors, 17, 18. I was able to put some kids on the world team in cadets, some kids on the junior team in juniors. And I had some national champions coming with the youth age. And those years I really, really start learning about coaching. And you know what? And I have a great confidence about it because I passed that class. Later, when I moved to the Olympic Training Center in Michigan, in Marquette, Michigan, I had the opportunity to work with athletes right after high school. So that was the next level of athletes. So I started to study that age division and working all the challenges that I had in the United States. And we never had athletes training only one style until we get them in that program in USOEC. And that actually helped me pass another class until these guys stayed there with me for 3, 4, even 5 years. And then they were ready. They became the top seniors in the nation in Greco, and that helped me to pass another class. So, and then I say I coached all the levels. I only haven't. Well, actually, I'm wrong. I will just say I never coached veterans, but I did this year. Mitko Georgiev, one of my guys, the instructors, he wrestled in veterans in Las Vegas and won the first place. But we didn't do much work with him anyway. But I do have experience now in all the levels, and that gives me confidence that I have my opinion now.
Yeah. And it's, I think a lot of people will be familiar with the kind of similar concept what you spoke about, kind of people trying to jump from a top level athlete career into top level coaching straight away. A prime example would be something like football, like in England Premier League, and top players finishing their career super eager, and through a bit of PR, a bit of inexperience of the managers, they get thrown in right at the very top. Right at the very top, and obviously the expectations are such that they're going to succeed. They were a great player, they're going to succeed as a great coach with the top level team, and oftentimes, more often than not, they fail. And this is such a hard way towards the comeback from that point of view, from that point onwards. And the best ones, the ones that do succeed following it's not that if you're a top athlete you can't succeed as a top coach, but they generally do start from grassroots. They go back to the academies, they go back to the keys, they prove themselves at all these different levels to eventually get charge of the top teams. And I think it's very similar to what you described there, going to the grassroots, working with the kids, proving yourself at the level, moving up the level, and then you get trusted, and that's how you develop trust as well, I suppose, with the top guys.
Yeah, building experience in each age division definitely will give you more confidence and better understanding about the coaching process. You'll see there's one way you teach the little kids, 7, 8 years old. There's another way you teach in between, 15, 16 years old, and another way how you teach like 18 years old and older kids. And it's a different approach slightly, and the only way to really understand this is by working years of experience. You're right. Most of the champions are going after the big title, the big position, right? I think in my opinion, they need to be more patient. I mean, they can be there, but also it's good to study also from the bottom, especially if you have a position like a national coach or some very top position. For me, it's a must to go down. It depends on a national coach position. If you just, it depends. If you're a technician but you should know how the kids are learning. You should have experience working also with different age groups. It will definitely be a advantage.
And also, I think you learn to deal with different challenges at those groups. Yes. That may be less risky at those levels as well. If you're making some coaching mistakes, or maybe handling or mishandling certain situations and the tensions inside the camp, obviously the cost of that, making that mistake and fixing that mistake, is a little bit less at the lower levels. Because if that's the first time you encounter that tension and that situation right at the very top, the cost of that can be drastic. So I think going through and making mistakes and correcting those mistakes at lower levels allows you to then better deal with them at the top level. Another question I have for you, and kind of what you spoke about there about studying the system. when you talk about studying, how much of that is kind of theoretical studying where you take information, how things should be in coaching? Okay, this is how you should coach. I don't know, you read a book, you study a course, this and that, versus experiential learning, experiential studying, where you actually get stuck in, make mistakes, correct mistakes, take notes. So how was your studying process? What did your studying process consist of?
Yes, my studying process was pretty simple for me to figure out how I'm going to start my coaching career. What I have to first know myself, what I'm going to be teaching, and I knew my strengths and I knew my weaknesses, like everyone else. I knew that my strength is teaching back step throws, back arch throws, variations of gut wrenches, variations of front headlocks, variations of counterattacks, defense. That's my kind of rough, like kind of give you kind of idea. I was able to have a good understanding, identify what is my style going to look like when I coach. Especially, I'm talking about Greco-Roman wrestling. I can say a few things about freestyle and folk style because my club is doing the three styles. We're working in a club environment. But right now for Greco, which I had the most international success, is I had to identify what is my style is going to look like, which techniques I have a very good understanding how to teach, right? And that's how I was able to make a plan of what I'm going to follow. And based on this is just an example with my technical part. Then I needed to select exercises that benefit my style, my techniques, my technical style on the mat, my athlete's performance, strength, conditioning that needed to execute better my wrestling techniques that I teach, that I work. Because there could be, the techniques are in your hand, but how many combinations, right? Everybody's doing different way. Also, you have different athletes with different height, strength, different flexibility. You have to establish very individual styles, right? So I had to think about that as well and select exercises that will benefit my style of teaching, my style of coaching and training. For example, my style in the physical part was aggressive style. My style it still is. We're doing lots of pulling, tie-ups. We never, normally should not break from opponent. Consistent pressure, always. You have to have a hold, you have to have pressure, and you have to have ability and the right preparation to explode after certain seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. You need explosive action, either back arch throw, back step throw, off balance action, but you have to have explosive action until you get down, your partner down on the mat, the opponent down on the mat, and then you have to perform either powerful turn or a lift, and you need explosive power. So all of these I had to consider to create exercises or drills with partner or specific strength condition exercises for explosive specific power or strength, specific strength that benefits. Everything is to benefit conditioning, everything to benefit the style of coaching I do. So it's nothing, and that's how Suples came. I had to come up with products that benefit my style of wrestling. It's not about, how can I have these back to beat them down, Yeah, you could do that too. It's easy, no brain. I can crush someone. I don't even need the Bulgarian back. I can get this chair that I'm sitting and I can make someone tired. But is it appropriate? No. The bag gave me exactly what I needed. The grip training, these rotations. Now we have hundreds of exercises on these bags. And you and I sit down here, bring the bags, for example. We can come up today with 2-3 new exercises. Do I need all of them? No. I still stick with what are these 4, 5, 6 to 10 exercises that benefit exactly Ivan Ivanov Suples style of wrestling. These exercises I need for muscular endurance, these exercises I need for speed and power, but all to benefit my athlete's performance on the mat. Period. That's the way I can explain. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, and I think you mentioned a few times the style. So it's almost everything. You start with the outcome rather than trying to entertain somebody or make them tired or this or that. You start with the outcome. This is the style. This is what we need to have at the end of this process, and now we need to find whether it's exercises, routines, processes that will eventually feed in, and at the end we get this style of wrestling which produces outcomes then. So, and again, I really liked what you mentioned, kind of going within yourself as a coach and identifying your strengths. What are you strong at? Because if you go with you can try to correct your weaknesses, but if there's strengths, especially, I think that's where the high-level competitive background helps as well, because these things pay off. These things pay off in the competition, and then you can say, okay, these are my strengths. I can deliver them. I can teach them. How do we supplement them? And at the end, we get the style that we like.
Absolutely. Everything was to benefit my athletes' performance on the mat. But I'll say again, my athletes. That's the next biggest challenge I had, or motivation to be very effective, is in the group training. Not to train only one athlete, because you have a partner. Now, many people, you and I talked on the way here, we talked about, specific strength and brute strength training, and we also talked about specific, right now, wrestling specific strength training, that you rely a lot on your partner. And that takes a coach with a whole other skills, level of good understanding, how to keep their athletes on the task, especially when they're sparring. Because I tell you what, the biggest, the most essential part of the preparation you need, and I will say this for your sport too, and even I don't know jiu-jitsu like you know it, sparring partner. How many times we all been really frustrated with some partner that just is not our level, or don't have understanding, or don't care, or either doesn't really want to learn how to sparring correctly, or has a wrong understanding about how to partner. Have you had sometimes someone say, I don't want to be a dummy here. Well, dude, you're not a dummy, because you're a dummy only if you think that way. He's on the offense, but you have to fight off his position, so you get something for you always. Doesn't matter what position you put me in, I need to benefit as much as if I'm offense or defense, it doesn't bother me. I need to get the best from me in that position, and there's always ways how to train that. So there's a lot of different ways, routines, how we can structure to benefit really the most from training with partners versus just tossing equipment around,
Yeah. So I'd like you to expand a little bit more on that point of, especially different dynamics, and how, as a coach, you have to adapt from training maybe an individual or a small group. I think it's quite different training 2 people, for example, having almost like a private session with 2 people and bringing somebody up versus training a full room. And I think I think you mentioned this before. How many people did you have to coach the first time you came into kind of training in the Olympic Training Center? There's about 40 people, and on your own as a coach. So that training a group, how does that differ in the dynamic, and how do you have to adapt as a coach versus training 1 or 2 people?
Well, training 1 or 2 people, is not as hard as training like over 20 people. 20 people, we have different levels. I mean, think about it. The USOEC, when I was coaching, every year I have freshmen coming. At the same time, my top guys were moving ahead. They were ready to win world medals. I have one assistant coach But the assistant coach, between us, the assistant coach also had to help me with lots of paperwork. And I had to make it work sometime. I mean, it was very challenging, especially the first few months until you give the freshmen just teach them some basics that they can be a better partners. They can watch for preventing potential injuries. That you lose one of your freshmen, then you don't have one partner less, for example, because he's injured because you didn't teach him how to land or pause correctly so it doesn't get hurt. I mean, these are all very challenging situations, and it needs experience, needs work in there. I'll give you an example how I mostly handle this. Just maybe can give an example or give ideas to other coaches. For example, on the 2 mats, I would work mostly, I would take the technical part, most technical part, that because I'm in charge of the program mostly, my assistant is there to help me. He has to follow my instructions. So I work on the technical part, but at the same time, I move my top guys to the next mat, which I can take a peek at what happened, and I give the plan to my assistant coach to crank them, to train them. They're not they're drilling, but in a very intense mode. Versus these guys that I train, the freshmen, we can talk, we can slow it down, we can break it down. It's not as intense, not life wrestling. These guys got to wrestle life, and every once in a while they need a partner. I send one of the freshmen go there, come back. I continue teaching, so I can have to know how to keep everybody happy. Not like, leave the freshmen and just focus on these guys, or send my assistant coach that doesn't really understand this yet, or he hasn't studied this process. If he's ready for that, yeah, I can let them run that part. But I found out that I need to be in charge of the most technical part, that I have much more experience, until I make sure my assistant coach or coaches understand that. Then I give them this. But they can blow the whistle, they can crank them. This is easy. Just keep them on the task. This is what you should watch for, what they're not doing, coach them. And then every once in a while, give them the other part too, so he can learn also how to do the instructions. But at the same time, I was able to see that everybody liked this environment, because the head coach was paying attention on everybody. This is the tricky part. It's a lot of work, lots of work. Everybody wants just to blow the whistle, and just go. And if you don't perform, a lot of the coaches will show you the doors. But I couldn't do that, because there was not enough recruit. Not only that, but this is not really fitting into my personality, into my style of coaching. And I was able to find the positive thing of every athlete that I have, as long as he's coachable. Every athlete was helpful to my program. If it was not, I would not invite him back. They know that. But if they're coachable, they're training, even with less skills, they're helpful. So that was the biggest challenge. The group training.
Yeah, we spoke a few times on this topic, and I also, through my experience with you, I found one of the things that characterizes you the most in your coaching is the meticulous structure and planning. So you talk a lot about planning. So, but even what you said there, delegating, certain responsibilities to the assistant coach at a certain time, but you have to understand the dynamics of the room. You have to understand what your plan is with this room. So talk to me a little bit about the importance of planning, the cycles of planning, and how does that contribute to running an effective room, especially when it comes to group training?
Absolutely. Planning is essential, especially when you train performance. Performance, you want national champions, you want world medals, world champions. You have to understand first the training process. You have to understand the periodization in order to structure effective plan for certain cycles, 3-week cycle, 6-week months, depends on what phase you are. So you have to understand periodization very well. And then you'll be able to structure a appropriate plan. But mostly, I'll say it's important to have a good understanding about not only, for example, oh, he shows moves very well. He knows a lot of techniques. Well, you can't only show moves. You have to know how to structure routines. So these guys going in there and wrestle in these similar situations that you test them in your gym before you bring them to the event, to the championships, whatever, right? You have to structure routines to keep them on the task. So you can't only show moves with, oh, you throw me, I throw you, for example. It doesn't work. But you also cannot wrestle them live and beat them down like crazy, all week. You got to also spend time to drill and correct the techniques that you've been working or they've been working on. And that's how you're able to structure a more effective plan when you have a good understanding how much instructional, how much live, how much I need to also spend on specific strength and conditioning training, how much mobility and flexibility and workouts that prevent injuries I need also to implement in my plan. How much recovery that don't do nothing, like one practice a day or a day off or a sports game even, how many of those? This is a tricky part. Takes someone with knowledge how to properly dosage the whole, amount of volume of intensity or a volume of training and how to split intensity and just like brute volume of training, how much lifetime, how much drill time. This has to be studied, and that's not very easy to. You got to spend a lot of years and go on and talk to. You need help. I needed help too. I was learning from good coaches. I was watching how they're planning. Sometime I'll tell you example. I learned from my coach. He came one time. He said, today will be short and intense, like without the warm up 20 minutes workout. I was like, 20 minutes? What do you get for 20 minutes? Nothing, But those 20 minutes, it could be intense run, sprint, intervals. You don't need more. And that's it, So that's an example of understanding what you're doing and your activities, because if you don't, if you just work on just general plan, either you could overtrain your athletes, or you can, maybe I say, undertrain them, right? Undertrain maybe is the same word. So that's the tricky part. That's why I'm sitting down and writing my course now. Everything what I've done and I learned from it, I write it down, and I want to be able, those guys who following Suples wrestling, especially now I started with Greco, to have a basic, like a plan, model, like, oh, I have to consider that. At least to see it. I'm writing it down. I'm in the stage of my life. Now I just prepare my priorities. How can I be effective coaching my own coaches that I have on my stuff? This is it. Everybody else is welcome, to learn from me, but I must teach and train my own coaches that I invested and pay full-time salary to be on my coaching stuff. They have to know what exactly I'm doing. It's not like with me, oh, here you go. I don't want to teach you how to coach. No, I have to show, if you're my assistant, I have to show you what I'm doing. And I'm not telling you must do like only Ivan's way. No, not at all. You use this and contribute to my plan, then we are both partners. We're both working together. I'm not telling you only have to go like a horse with, what do you call these, blains, right? No, not at all. You got to open and you got to contribute to our plan. That's how we did it with the bags. Remember, I learned one exercise from you. You learn probably 5, 6 from me or more, and every year I come here, I learn something from you. That's how we grow, right? So I hope I was able to give you a little bit.
No, that's again, that's something I've experienced, and through our conversations over the last couple of days, I think the amount of times you mentioned the word partnership, but in a true sense of partnership, as a collaboration. So it's not a pure, to a certain extent, it is a top-down approach where you have to kind of disseminate information. The approach you experience, obviously, the more experienced you are, the more you can give people who are trying to follow your footsteps. But preparedness and openness to listen and to say, you have the reins, you have the opportunity to contribute to this. It's not a closed book. We haven't finished writing that book. You started, and then you find the right people to follow you and to contribute further. And we keep writing that book, and we keep writing that book, and we keep writing that book, making improvements, making additions to this. And so that was kind of you preempted my next question, is how you spoke a lot about also the style, and the style somehow also depends on the personality as well, I suppose. So how do you do that already and plan doing in the future to make sure that the coaches that follow you, specifically in the Suples training systems, as you said, other coaches are welcome to view and, adopt some of these methods. But when we talk about Suples training systems, wrestling, Suples training systems in wider kind of, fitness methods, you're talking
Functional
about
training.
Functional training. Yes. So how do you make sure that there is a style? The style remains. The style obviously expands a little bit depending on people, but that education. So obviously that we do certification courses and such, but the coaching approach and the coaching philosophy and the coaching style remains at the core of this. So what are your plans? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, my thoughts are, I've been very open with everybody when I go and teach, mostly functional training. I share this to my partners who are instructors like you are, and delivering the education for us, like we're working in partnerships. I said, guys, I did my job with, like, say, for example, with the Bulgarian Bag. I made a system with this bag, and I stopped, and I moved to the next one. When I pass it to you guys, now take it from here and keep building. You contribute to this. It's not only like, this is it. There is no limits, but I need to move to the next one until I have more, something work here, right? I better use, what's next? Because someone needs to do this job. You're smiling when I come to you, like I brought you on my next tool. You like it. You like the Hertz Blaster, right? It was a nice surprise, right? Yeah. Like, wow, every time it's like Coach Ivan comes, it should be like a Santa Claus. Bring always new, maybe not a new product or new equipment, but also a new routine or something like, oh, I never seen that. I like to learn, like what's next? And I have to work on my tasks, right? So that's how I see we're moving forward as an organization, as a community. Someone in my position, right now it's me, if I'm not here, someone else have to come to this position. Always to move with new innovations. But the coaches should study the system that they decided to educate on, like the Bulgarian Bag, and at the moment, and you also teaching Suples ball, for example, right? And later the Hertz, and all of these tools, and I keep moving forward, and then I bring new equipment hopefully next year, and that way we're all growing, and it works very well. And at the same time, everybody has this opportunity to upgrade what we currently have, because when we share this system with many people, definitely you're going to have some more people to contribute with ideas. Some ideas don't work. Some exercises we can't accept. Some exercises we will, but at least I don't want to make my partners think, oh, this is only Ivan's way. No, it's not. I actually got it done. You guys, it's yours. Let me move to the next one. And you guys make sure you're not passive. Bring me some ideas back.
Yeah. So it's a lot of it, I suppose, is trusting people to do things,
Trusting
but also
people.
engaging with people and kind of
Engaging.
monitoring.
They have to feel like, oh, I'm also allowed to give ideas. Absolutely. Absolutely. You're valuable. You're a partner. I'm not here to motivate, like you mentioned, the motivation, I don't like to sit down and only motivate people. Maybe I know how to do this well, but I rather work with people that already motivated. If you call yourself a partner with me, you better show me that you can motivate me too. How you motivate me? Like I give you an example. You're a coach. You have a jiu-jitsu big club here in Dublin, one of the biggest probably. Do you have favorites? Am I asking you a question now, Peter? Do you have favorites?
Do I have favorites?
Yeah. Do you?
I probably do, to the extent that, if I
No,
see.
you do, Peter. No, don't be shy, okay? Because ask me. I say I have favorites. Always have. Always, always, always. And I always will. You know what? I'm not shy to tell them. I can tell. If they're right here, I'll say, you know what? I can tell you who is my favorite. Some coach are like, oh, he's going to say who is here. I tell you who is favorite, guys. I'll tell you right now. Okay, listen to me. If you're coachable, if you are busting your balls for the club and for yourself and for your parents, for everybody, if you're coming to practice on time, if you're giving your best, if you're winning the most medals, you are my favorite, no doubt. No doubt. If you're one of those, then you are my favorite. If you're not, then you have the answer. You're down the ladder. This is it. When talking performance, right? When we talk like, if we have kids or athletes coming for activities, but the same. They come, they pay and they don't show up. That's not, sorry, they're not. Their performance, it's okay. Their activity, that's okay, but still it's not okay because you pay and you don't show. I don't understand that. Parents pay and they don't show up too. I don't know if you have any of those. We do have in America. Maybe they have so much money they don't care.
More adults than kids.
Yeah, more adults. Okay, but I'm talking just performance guys. Guys who told me I want to be this. They talk a lot. When we say I'm gonna go, coach, watch, I'll win the national Saudi, and it doesn't come to practice. And now, those guys. You have to talk with them, and I have to tell them that, sorry, but if you're not one of these, you're not my favorite. They know.
Yeah.
So
it's in a way it's a very transparent thing. You know what I mean? It's not a favorite based on some kind of subjective factors. It's transparent. So you asked me, I had to kind of, while you're talking, I had to think like who my favorites are. And generally speaking, it's people who put the most effort in.
Exactly. No, I knew exactly that you have favorites. I tell you, if somebody coach say I don't have favorites, he's lying.
Yeah, but it's
they won't tell it. But see, I said it in a nice, delicate way. I didn't say names. They know. They're smart enough to know if they're my favorites or not. Because performance. I yell all the time. I'm the biggest yeller. In the gym, though, because people come to me in the corner and said, Coach Ivan, can I sit by you and just listen how you coach? I said, yeah, you're welcome, but I don't say much here. First, if I don't see connection with the athlete, sometimes some athletes just don't listen. Even if you train them, like they go out there, like they look at you, hey, tell them the name. Hey, you do this. Yes, coach. Yes, sir. And his focus is somewhere else. I can tell he doesn't understand exactly what I'm talking about. So then I could be like, okay, I don't say much. But you know who I yell? Actually, I do yell sometime. I yell for a very inexperienced athlete because you coach him every move. He doesn't know nothing, and you have to yell and say, "Hey, do that! No, circle around, grab the arm, move this, face him." You have to say so much, and then I lost my voice. But now I leave this to my assistants, to coach. But
But so the healthy dose of that and the energy. I look at it as an energy output from coach as well. As you said, sometimes people like to just whistle once in a while, maybe not even use a whistle, just say a few things or keep the room quiet. I think in Suples we like to keep that energy, to keep that fire burning.
I can say something about this. I talk a lot in my course about building your own style, your identity. This is amazing. This is very important, and I recommend this for each club organization to think about their identity. Identity, like, okay, I'll give you an example. Everything what we do in the gym, besides just training, is one thing. This is how we train, right? But how you present yourself on the mat in competition. Do we walk after each action out of bounds? Do we walk or do we run first? Do we get first on the center or last on the center, for example? That's the question. I don't say which one is wrong. I can tell you that I prefer running. I'm the guy who likes intensity. Like, this is our identity. Our athletes should be taught this way. Run to the center. Don't walk. You're not walking a funeral. You're there to fight. You're not walking slow like in a funeral. You got to run, get back, get ready. This is our identity. Shows energy. This guy is not a quitter. You don't even think about getting tired. This is our identity. We don't say rest. We say celebrate. And that means after each set or whatever you do, you jump around like a little bit, like shake your arms and move. And, like, it's proven that you recover faster than after the match and sitting down, or after each action, you put your hands right here. Oh, come on, I will just crush my guys. Don't put your hands on your knees. You know how they bend down, or they put their hands right here. That's right. Show everybody that your arms are dead. Is that what you want? Then that guy is watching you, and he's going to crush you right now. If you show him these postures, what is your posture? Okay, what is the Suples coach should be? What is our identity when we're coaching? Hey, go in there and talk like this. Hey, let's go, guys, and post the wall. No. Suples coaches be sweating just by being around and just showing, moving all the time, showing energy. The Suples coach should not be sitting down on the floor and flipping arms. Should be. I'm just giving you kind of idea what identity I mean. What is exactly how you behave on the mat, how you train, how you end up the mat. Go shake your opponent's hand first, lose or win. Go shake the referees. Make sure you go to the corner and shake his coach's hand as well. You can't do that. If somebody is disrespectful, I'll be chewing him up, for example. Or my coaches should be doing that. So everything like that, I can keep going on. Everything what we do. See, we never start practice without lining up. This is our identity. Line up. Why? Because Ivan wants to be on a power trip? No, I'm a structure guy. I don't want to lose the control of my workout, of my training session. I want to make sure the guys understand that I'm coming here with a plan, prepared to work. That's why I need them to line up. I don't want them to sit down. I don't say this is, hey, some people might say, I will have them guys sitting down on the phone. You can do whatever you want. This is your identity. My identity, I want them up. I want them to watch me what I'm talking about, what we're going to do. It's proven that they pay more attention when they're up, right? This is our identity. We don't start practice without cheering the name of your organization, the organization that you are representing. After practice, we will never finish practice without a team cheer. This is part of our identity, So I can go on, but this is very important for colleagues who are running clubs to consider this.
And that's, as I said, that's something that I've experienced with you, and it makes a huge difference. And kind of coaching philosophy, and we go back to style, philosophy, so the underlying principles. because there's tools and tricks and stuff like this you can do, and you can watch an Instagram video and say, oh, this coach is doing this, and let me grab this piece of information or this piece of information. So they're like little gimmicks that can help for sure, but there has to be an underlying style, identity, as you said, or philosophy, so whichever way you call it, and everything comes back to that. So does that action that you do, is that consistent with your identity? And sometimes maybe you do something that isn't consistent,
but
it's
you
a
do
process.
you can absolutely. Coaches should always do, I can say, experiments a little bit. Like, okay, test how this works. I don't have to you gotta make a little. You gotta test something, right? You have to explore some new methods, right? And take whatever works, whatever doesn't. You just, this is not working, I'm not gonna do it. But I believe that if you run a program and you want really results, you kind of have to build your identity.
Yeah, that's a really powerful message. The next thing I want to kind of bring us back a little bit, the overtraining, undertraining part, especially, I think, at least in my community in jiu-jitsu, it's almost like an accepted fact that the kids will burn out at some point if you push them too hard or something, because such a long period, kids start training quite early. By mid-teenage years, they get a bit of freedom, maybe a little bit less structure, because in the early days, parents say you go to practice, this day, this time, and that's what you do. As you get a little bit older, you get a little bit kind of more personal freedom, obviously, maybe a little bit money, a bit of this and that. So a lot of kids kind of fall off the cliff in the training sense. Okay, so, and I spoke to you a couple of days ago about this, and you said, no, my kids don't burn out. So if that happens, you fail as a coach. So can you elaborate a little bit on that point, and how important is it to again, I think it probably goes back to planning. What are the key elements to making this work, so you don't have almost a certain burnout?
Great question. Very good understanding about the planning is essential, no doubt about this. But also, before that, I'll start with something else. When you starting a phase or starting career with an athlete, this is what I just say what I do. I don't say this is only way, right? I just want to share here what I do, that I am experiencing success. Why my athletes not quitting on me? Why I don't burn anybody? I probably am doing something, right? I sit down with them and first say, all right, Johnny, for example, what is your goal, buddy? What do you want to do here? Now I just move you to Suples Strong. This is my not top performance before you go to world team. If you be called world team on Suples, you have to be on some of the world teams, Pan American world team, junior, cadet world team, like you have to be somewhere. But Suples Strong is my top team, right? My top level. We're about to move you to Suples Strong. You know what that is? You understand? Oh, I understand, coach. Maybe Johnny speaks back. Say, I understand, coach. I got to train every day. I have to go up to 9 workouts a week. Yeah, that's right. Are you ready now for that? Yes, coach. You sure? Yes. Okay, what about your parents? Who's going to bring you here to practice in the morning, especially? Oh, I talked to my mom and blah, blah. Okay, good. So now we have a good understanding. Johnny, okay, good. So everything what I ask you, done. Now we have a good understanding. Johnny is going to follow the process. He gave me his word, right? I didn't twist his arm to be in this level. And now Johnny gave me his word, and I structure a plan. So the first check mark, right? Johnny gave me his word. Done. Now, that's not guarantee me that he won't quit, right? So now the next thing is a good understanding of how I structure my plan. So I have different different training activities or different ways of training. But at the same time, I don't want to change the purpose of my training. So for example, oh, we got to train strength. Every Monday we train strength. Yeah, every Monday mostly I train strength and power. Okay, but if you do it all year around, the kid's going to stop coming. They say, oh, it's the same. I know how to do this. But no, you don't, because next week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the most, we're gonna switch to something else, but never change the purpose of the training. Still gonna be strength, but different exercise, different equipment that trains the same area that benefits our Suples style of training. And see the difference, and a mixture with different training. Different training, not only the routines, but also on the mat. I'll give you another example. I always come in my serious phases of training, when I know I can count on athletes to be here every day, I always come with a plan. Folder, written plan by my hand, because nobody, even I can make grammatical misspelling, nobody should look at without my permission here. This is just for me. And the athletes should not look. Even my assistant coaches, only if I decide to ask them, to look, they can look at this manual. So I write the plan, and very often I can make the change, because I see the guys today, they're not responding. But I also knew that yesterday, for example, I cracked them so much, so they probably didn't have a chance fully to recover. So I can change right away. Why? Because if I don't change, if I do this multiple times, I quickly can break them. And when you start breaking them, I mean, first is not good for them. They're going to start doubting themselves. Oh, I'm not that good. Or you make him wrestle tired all the time. And some kids who are from the next level below, they come fresh, and they wrestle only 2-3 times a week. They practice, and they go and score on these kids, and these top kids that are training full time, they start, oh, I'm not good. I train hard, and I lost a point from this young man who is not coming as often as me, and they start making a big problem, right? And that's not the problem. This problem is like, if they're pushed to that limit, so now they're fatigued, they're so tired, and the other kids can come close sometime, So I want to avoid any of these situations by having a very well thought training plan with activities that can get kids excited about each practice. They come to practice, they don't know what we're going to have. Most likely they guess we're going to be on the mat, but also I'll tell you, Wednesday, for example, that's the time when we can play sports game, when we can have interval training, something that it brings more excitement and changes the whole atmosphere, in the room, or we can take them outside, do cross training that refreshes them. And sometimes, I'll give you an example, the parents are starting to get in, like putting their noses into try to be a coaches, say, they're going to play, they're going to be outside. We will go somewhere else so we can practice some freestyle, for example. It happened in my club. And that's where they make the biggest mistake. They go to another gym, they still doing a lot of mat stuff. The kid never have time to refresh us a little bit and come back on the next day and be fresh and be alert and recovered. And so that's I hope I'm explaining, the process, how I don't have any problems breaking them down, completely burning them out.
Yeah. So if I had to summarize, just for my understanding as well, because that's a lot of useful information for me as well. So it's meticulous planning, but planning flexible enough where you can change things when you see as a coach that kids start breaking. And generally the quitting won't happen from 1 week of hard training. It's the accumulation of that keeps happening over and over, and that will keep happening if you don't have a plan, if you don't monitor that situation. So it's 1 week like this, second week like this, third week like this, and several instances of this mini burnouts will eventually result in overall burnout and the kid.
I can add something else that I didn't mention here. Burnout also could come from competing too much. And I'll give you an example in wrestling. America, the wrestling competition schedule is very intense because just the way it's structured. If you look at the competitions, they don't offer only Greco or freestyle. Most likely not. There may be some exceptions, but if you watch it, each competition, they got to wrestle one day Greco, one day freestyle, and then folk style. This very often is too much for some kids to handle. Some kids just not ready for this. And that's where the parents making a big mistake. They go and make the decision on their own. And that's where they're shooting themselves in the heels. The kid is not ready to handle that. The kid is not ready for one style. They want to push him on 2 or 3 styles just to get matches. And then the kid get crushed, and that's immediately burnout symptom right away. Don't you think? I mean, you're crushed, and would you want to go back? You don't want to see. I mean, it's tough. It's hard.
So how do you find that balance?
I talked to the parents. I started to talk with them. Said, look, make sure at least let us know what you're planning to do. So recently I had some kid just join the club. It take 2 months, and they come and they go to the original competition that these kids are totally not ready. And I said, guys, at least let us know. I would have tell you. I would have tell you right away what I think, if you're ready for this or not. It's, if you want to go there, go. But at least I'm not stopping anybody. It's a club, right? I only can stop my son because I'm the parent. So I can only stop my own child. But I just, at least, I'd like to have a good understanding. I want you to give you my opinion. And once we talk like that with the parents, things are way, way better. They have a good understanding and trust, and then they come to me more often and say, Coach, we are planning to send our child to this event. What do you think? And we talk about, because I've seen some kids losing in one style and going in the other style get crushed, but then the style before they won like a couple of matches at least, and then they go to the next day, they get crushed, and then guess what? It's making the whole trip miserable. And then most likely you can lose the kid. I've seen it. That's how you break the kids. Competition is actually worse than the training, because you go there and they go so much emotions, and so we have to be careful, especially when you wrestle like 3 styles in America. I don't think you have this problem because you wrestle only jiu-jitsu, right? They just go.
Yeah, but there's there's almost the same. I can, everything you're saying, I can see. I have flashbacks to these things. I see this, my own club, other clubs. It's very, very relevant to me. So it's a really good piece of information.
Good. I'm glad. At least I'm sharing my opinion, but athletes just have to communicate that with the coach and make together a decision. And if parents need to be involved, they have to be involved, because parents at the end pay the money for a trip, but they don't. Sometimes they see a different way. Oh, we're gonna take a family vacation, and vacation is vacation. You go to compete, it's a compete, right? I mean, it's good to mix it both, but in some cases, you have to see also if your child is ready for this, or not.
Excellent. Coach, we're going to wrap it up on this one. There's been so many gems in this. I'm going to rewatch this myself and, as I said, pick up a few points. I'm pretty sure our viewers are going to do the same. And I'm also very sure this is not our last conversation in this format. So many, many thanks. And we'll see you again.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you. Same.